Dear all, welcome. This is Dr. R. Amiruddin, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, B.S. Abdurrahman Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Today, we are going to discuss about optoelectronic devices which will be useful for BTech second semester, PhD X09, Semiconductor Physics and Optoelectronics. So, this is the content or the syllabus which is there in your curriculum. So module 2 we have optoelectronic devices, in which the first topic is about LEDs. So to understand LEDs we have to revise some basics based on semiconductors, P-N junctions, and then we will discuss about how this P and N junctions will be applicable towards light emitting diodes. So semiconductors, as you know, is broadly classified as two types, which is intrinsic undoped semiconductors and extrinsic, which is doped semiconductors. And extrinsic semiconductors, again we have two broad classification, N-type and P-type semiconductors. So in N-type semiconductors, the electrons or the negatively charged carriers will act as majority carriers, and holes positively charged will act as minority carriers. And for P-type semiconductors, the holes act as majority carriers and the electrons will act as minority carriers. Now when we merge this P and N-type semiconductors together, there will be some kind of diffusion of charge carriers. So the negatively charged electron diffuses towards the positively charged layers, and positively charged holes diffuses towards the N-type layers, and because of which an electric field is produced, and because of diffusion of electrons and holes there will be diffusion current between the depletion region. Now the positively charged donor ions will form across this N-type region, and negatively charged acceptor ions will form across this P-type region. And due to diffusion of charge carriers, a depletion region is formed with a potential difference V across this P and N junctions. Now let us consider what happens under forward bias, which means the positive terminal of the battery is connected with the P-type semiconductors and negative terminal of the battery is connected with N-type semiconductors. As you know, the charge carriers are like charge carriers, which means the negatively charged N-type semiconductors is connected with negatively charged terminal of the battery, and positively charged P-type semiconductor is connected with positive end of the battery, and because of which there will be some repulsion between these charge carriers, and because of this repulsion this terminal of the battery repels this electron towards this depletion region. As a result, under forward bias this depletion region becomes narrow, and thus high current flow will be passing towards this junctions. Now the reverse case, where the negative terminal of the battery is connected with the P-type semiconductors and positive terminal of the battery is connected with N-type semiconductors, such condition is called as reverse bias, and during this condition the charge carriers attracts. So we have negatively charged N-type and positively charged terminal of the battery. So the charge carriers and the unlike charge carriers attracts, and because of this attraction the electrons or the holes are swept away from this depletion region. So in the previous case it was pushed inside this depletion region, and now under reverse bias it will just swept apart from this depletion region, and because of which under reverse bias the depletion region becomes wider. Thus, this acts as a barrier, or it partially acts as an insulator since it will not allow the flow of current across this depletion region. As a result, a p-n junction is nothing but a diode which allows the current flow only in forward bias and restricts the current flow in reverse bias. So this is the voltage and current characteristics of a p-n junction diode. Now, based on this concept, you will understand what is light emitting diodes using this p-n junction of the semiconductors. So let us revise what we have seen so far. So we have a p-type and n-type semiconductors. P-type has majority of carriers as holes and n-type semiconductors has majority of carriers as electrons. Now when this p and n-type semiconductors are made in contact with each other, there will be some kind of diffusion of charge carriers, and thus result in formation of acceptor ions and donor ions across this depletion region, and it has a potential difference. This depletion region behaves as a potential barrier which restricts the flow of current, and this corresponds to the potential barrier of this p and n junctions. Now such condition is under without external biasing, and now when the same p-n junction was subjected to external bias, so this is the condition for forward bias, where the p-type semiconductors is connected with positive terminal of the battery and n-type semiconductors is connected with negative terminal of the battery. And during this condition, there will be some repulsion of charge carriers, and due to which the depletion region becomes narrow, and thus high current flow flows across this p and n junction. As a result, this potential barrier height decreases. Thereby, high current flow flows across this p and n junction under forward bias condition. Let us consider the other case where under reverse bias condition we have p-type semiconductors connected with negative terminal of the battery and n-type semiconductors connected with positive terminal of the battery, and due to which the charge carriers starts attracting. Because of attraction of charge carriers, the depletion region becomes wider, which restricts the flow of current flow across this potential barrier. So this barrier height increases further and restricts the flow of current from one end to other end across this p and n junction. So this is the condition for reverse bias, and this is how the forward bias and reverse bias of p-n junction looks like. So under forward bias, the junction allows more number of current flow, and under reverse bias it restricts the flow of current. Now based on this concept, we are going to discuss how it is applicable to fabricate a visible light emitting diodes using this p and n junction semiconductors. So LEDs is nothing but again a p and n junction which emits light under forward bias condition. So let us see how it happens. So for a p-n junction, when it's been subjected to forward bias, so under forward bias the p-n junction allows high current flow, and during this condition the electrons and holes diffuses inside this depletion region, and when these electrons and holes recombine with each other, it emits some energy in the form of light based upon the relation E is equal to h nu. So this electrons, when it recombines with the holes, it emits some energy in the form of light, which we are seeing as light emitting diodes. So A typical LED has a similar IV characteristics of voltage and current characteristics, wherein under forward bias it allows more current flow, and under reverse bias it restricts the flow of current. And every LED has a particular turn on voltage beyond which the current value exponentially increases, and also it allows the electron to recombine with holes, thereby emitting the light. So we have a PN junction or the LED structure, and this typical structure is what you can see in any LED device. So we have a same P-type semiconductors and N-type semiconductors which are stacked between here, and we have a positive terminal and negative terminal of the power supply. So one is positive and one is negative, and this is what you can see in a typical LED structure. So under particular voltage, this electrons and holes recombine with each other inside this depletion region, and thereby we are getting a light as an output. So this is an alternative view of the LED structure. So the color of emission characteristics, the output light, mainly depends upon the band gap of the semiconductors. So let us see how this band gap plays a crucial role for the obtained light from the device structure. Let us start analyzing the characteristics of LEDs. So before we understand the output characteristics, we need to understand the electromagnetic spectrum. So when the wavelength is increased, the electromagnetic spectrum is arranged in such a way that first comes the gamma rays, and then we have X-rays, and then we have UV rays, and then we have visible radiation, and then we have infrared radiation, and then we have radio waves. Now I just zoom this visible region alone. We have something like this, and on either side we have UV rays and infrared rays. Now if we plot a graphical representation based on wavelength as x-axis and intensity along y-axis, then we have 400 nanometer of wavelength corresponds to violet regime, and then we have 500 nanometer wavelength corresponds to green region of electromagnetic spectrum. 600 nanometer wavelength corresponds to yellow region of the electromagnetic spectrum. 700 nanometer wavelength corresponds to red region of the electromagnetic spectrum. We have the formula energy is equal to Hc by lambda, wherein H defines as Planck's constant, c is the velocity of light, and lambda is the wavelength of the radiation. Equation 1 can also be written as energy is equal to 1240 divided by lambda. So 1240 is the constant value when we product with Planck's constant and velocity of light. So now if we plot the same spectra, we have the energy E and the wavelength are inversely proportional to each other. So when wavelength increases, the energy decreases. Now if we plot the same x-axis in terms of energy, and if we consider 700 nanometer wavelength, then energy E is given as 1240 divided by 700 electron volt, which gives you 1.77 electron volt. Similarly, substitute 600 nanometer wavelength in equation number 2. We have E is equal to 1240 divided by 600, which gives you 2.06 electron volt. Similarly, substitute 500 nanometer wavelength in equation number 2. We have 1240 divided by 500, which is 2.48 electron volt. And similarly, when we substitute 400 nanometer wavelength in equation number 2, we have 1240 divided by 400 nanometer, that gives you 3.1 electron volt. So when the lambda value is less, we have energy value more. Thereby, when wavelength increases, the energy decreases. So based upon this basic criteria, let us start exploring more about emission color of different LEDs. So now let us consider gallium nitride, a semiconductor which has the band gap E as 3.4 electron volt, and 3.4 electron volt lies somewhere around this region, which is ultraviolet region. So now the important factor here is, if we fabricate a P and N junction using gallium nitride as a material, using P-type gallium nitride and N-type gallium nitride, it emits the color of UV region and wavelength of 364 nanometer. And similarly, if you fabricate aluminum nitride PN junction, it has the band gap of 6.3 electron volt, and when we substitute this factor 1240 divided by 6.3, we have LED output color, which is UV light with the wavelength of 197 nanometer. So let us see once again the example where gallium phosphide. So gallium phosphide has the band gap of 2.26 electron volt, and let us substitute over here 2.26 lies around this region. Yes, and this 2.26 lies corresponds somewhere around the greenish region, and 2.26 when we substitute in terms of equation number 2, and if you find the lambda, so lambda is equal to 1240 divided by 2.26, which gives you 548 nanometer, and that corresponds to green emission. So if you fabricate light emitting diodes using gallium phosphide as a semiconductor material which has a band gap of 2.26 electron volt, it emits green light. Let us see one more example of gallium arsenide which has the band gap 1.43 electron volt, and let us place this 1.43 over here in the electromagnetic spectrum. The 1.43 lies approximately in this region, and in this region corresponds to infrared light. So let us substitute this 1.43 in equation number 2. 1240 divided by 1.43, the lambda is given as 867 nanometer, and that corresponds to red or near IR region LEDs. So if we fabricate PN junction LEDs using P-type gallium arsenide and P-type and N-type gallium arsenide with a band gap of 1.43, it emits 867 nanometer wavelength, or the color of the light is near IR emission. Let us see one more last example of zinc oxide which has the band gap of 3.36 electron volt, and that 3.36 lies along the UV region. Obviously, when we substitute this 3.36 to equation number 2, 1240 divided by 3.36, and the value will be coming around 375 nanometer, and that 375 nanometer lies approximately in the UV region, and hence the PN junction fabricated using zinc oxide emits light which has the wavelength of 375 nanometer or UV emission. So any LEDs or a PN junctions which predominantly works under forward bias, and when the electrons and holes tend to recombine, it emits light, and this recombination depends upon the band gap of the material. So based upon the band gap of this material, the color of light which is coming out plays a crucial role. So that is what we have seen in the previous slide. Based upon this band gap of this any material, the output color differs. So a PN junction LEDs, the output color depends upon the band gap of the P-type and N-type semiconductors. So under forward bias, it allows more number of current flow, and under reverse bias, it restricts the current flow, and at particular turn on voltage, the electron and hole recombination will takes place, and it emits light depending upon the band gap of the material. Thank you for your kind attention. Have a nice day.